Hi, folks. Today's episode is brought to you by one of my favorite sponsors. That's right, sunsetlakesebede.com. You got to get the product to know why I don't say those three letters in the way that most people do. Mm-hmm. The coupon code Left is Best will get you 20% off. They have such an amazing wide array of Sebede products. They have tinctures that help you sleep, tinctures that make you feel calm, tinctures that are 600 milligrams, tinctures that are 750 milligrams, all in between. 3 different flavors of the tinctures. They also have smokables. They got a new vape cart as well. They got keef, pre-rolls, flour. They have lotions with Sebede. They have salves with Sebede. They have gummies with Delta, and THC. And once they get the AI, they'll figure out what I'm doing on YouTube. But that's what it's going to ultimately have to be. Is I'm just going to have to do the whole ad and like gaga.
That's a 9K.
Here's the point, though. SunsetLakeSebede.com. They're a great company. They have given literally tens of thousands of dollars to things like refugee resettlement, carceral reform, strike relief funds, food pantries, Planned Parenthood. The list goes on and on. They're a great company. They have great business practices, $20 minimum wage, mostly employee owned. They have great farming practices, no pesticides. They use integrated pest management, regenerative farming, so they take care of the soil, and all of their product third-party tested, so you know exactly what's in it and you know what you're looking for. I like it. I found after a while that it's the Sebede and the Sebe together is the thing that makes me go to sleep. And that is worth $1 million, but it's not actually, it's much cheaper than that. And then you get 20% off with the coupon code Left is Best. SunsetLakeSebede.com. Check it out. Now time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day is Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, March 28th. 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program, it's Casual Friday. Heather Parton, you may know her as Digby, both the salon writer and the proprietor of the Uber blog Hullabaloo, will be joining us to look back on this most recent travesty of a week. Also on the program today, huge cuts at Health and Human Services. They're going to leave the agency ultimately with less than 3/4 of its personnel that it has now. Democratic lawmakers demand a release of disappeared Tufts student. Trump claims tariffs to go into effect next week as Canada preps for life with hostiles at its southern border. Meanwhile, Trump targets the Smithsonian programs because of their improper ideology. Senate Republicans vote to remove caps on overdraft fees. So good news. You're no longer going to be Your freedom is no longer going to be encumbered by caps on how much you have to pay when you accidentally overdraft.
The right-wing populists have got it locked down.
I will also add that also banks will now have the freedom to go back to their practice of time shifting your the checks that you cut so they can increase the overdraft fees. Freedom tastes so good. HUD refusing to pay back pay to court-ordered reinstated probationary employees. And a federal judge orders Hiccup Seth, Waltz, and Gabbard, Vance, and Rubio to preserve their Houthi texts. And that judge, incidentally, the Honorable Judge Boasberg. Yes, that guy.
King.
They don't have the greatest luck when it comes to the lottery of judges. Meanwhile,
Chug Seth.
panicked over the Pennsylvania special election results, Elise Stefanik nomination to the UN scrapped. And Trump weighs in on the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Trump also signs an EO demanding government agencies cancel their union contracts. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is
Casual Friday.
ostensibly.
Very casual.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like my fight or flight response is going to be activated for the next
4 years
maybe 3.5.
or more.
We'll see.
We will win.
Oh my God. Honestly, I have on my phone now several screen grabs of him doing that in different points, just because I'm so enraged by.
Oh, what is like a motivational
It's
speech
some
for you
type
at the
of
gym?
wallpaper.
Yeah,
Got to
it's just some
get that
type of-
pump in.
I mean,
Inspirational.
the cuts. He was on Twitter last night bemoaning some cuts to something. I can't remember what it was, and I just wanted to be like, you a-hole. Maybe I did tweet out. I can't remember.
Pretty sure you did.
I think I did. Like, you did this. The reason why we have to tell people about these cuts is because it's hard to know. If you're just an average person who is trying to make ends meet or trying to get Social Security checks or whatever it is, you don't have time to read every story about every cut at every agency and understand the dynamic that they're doing this despite the fact that there's some court actions against it, but they also have some latitude to do this. They are shutting down the government. When you fire 1/4 of the staff at HHS, the services provided by the Health and Human Services part of our government, you are shutting down our government. But if you're on the receiving end of these benefits, services, whatever it is, the likelihood that you are savvy as to what's going on and understand, oh, this isn't a problem with government, this is a problem with the administration, is very slim. Which is why Chuck Schumer, in basically letting them off the hook, giving them license to do all of this without accountability, because there is no political accountability for this. It's insane. With that said, fortunately, we are still in an era, like between now and 2026, we're in an era where well, I should say not only, but there is an advantage to having high information voters and high propensity voters. And that's what the Democratic constituency has. They have a core group of voters who are very intense, very specific about voting, are on top of all this stuff. The Republicans have a wider, slightly, a group of voters who know less. This is just data. I'm not maligning anybody.
But that was on exit polling for why, Trump won in 2024 and why how the midterms in 2022 weren't indicative, because high propensity voters turn out for that. A lot of people just came out for Trump and left the rest of the ballot blank. And when you look at, factors that cut across those low propensity voters, it's usually people that are lower information. The exit polls get a majority of their news from social media or don't consume news at all.
We know that people who don't follow politics will more than likely vote for Trump.
Yep.
However, the other day in Pennsylvania, there was a couple of one was a House race, and one was a state Senate seat. In the state Senate seat, it was a
plus
Trump,
15.
Trump had won by 15% in just, I don't know, 6 months ago. And a Democrat won that seat by a hair, but that's a 15-point swing. In the House seat, the Democrat had won, or Harris had won, I think by, I can't remember what it was, 8 or something to that effect. And there was another. And this person, this Democrat who won in that seat, won by like 23. So that gives you a sense of like, and it's a very rough thing, and it's almost, the perception that it creates is almost as important as the reality of it. But it has got the Republicans panicked. On Tuesday, there is a incredibly important Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. We had Ben Wickler on a couple of weeks ago to talk about this. Voting is open in Wisconsin. Go and vote right now. Hang up your radio or computer and the phone and go and vote right now. Make sure you vote in that race. And in Florida, there are 2 House districts that were vacated, one by Matt Gaetz because he had an invitation with prosecutors, and so he had to leave. Mm-hmm. And the second was Mike Walz's place. And Mike Walz, who knows how long he'll be around these days.
Right.
These 2 seats, Florida's 1st and 6th districts, they're slam dunks for Republicans, except for maybe next week.
There's been some polling that shows that particularly in that 6th district, which Walz vacated, is that basically it's within the margin of error that Democrat is polling. And that Democrat's name is Josh Weil, running against, well, I can't read my own handwriting, but a Republican in that district.
And I just want to make this clear. This is not speculation on our parts. This is, or to the extent that it is, here is evidence that the Republicans are very, very worried about this. Elon Musk is going to Wisconsin and offering like $1 million to anybody who signs his petition or something like that.
That's legal in this country.
And I don't know how worried they are about Florida, but they are worried about these seats. And Elise Stefanik, perhaps one of what's the word for least integrity? Is there a word for that?
I mean,
craven.
Yeah. One of the most craven members of Congress, maybe politics. She has just gotten off her final Instagram tour, reminiscing on her congressional career.
Oh, it was such
She
an
was
honor.
touring her district, say goodbye. I was part of the Republican House leadership, but now I'm moving on. I'm going to be the ambassador to the UN.
To bigger and better things.
And you know who that is like a huge step. If you want to go from Congress into the presidency, what do you need? International relations. Nikki Haley, before she, ruined her chances of going further in the Republican Party by having brown skin. Elise Stefanik is looking at that. That's the ticket for her. Bye-bye, Congress. I'm leaving, except what? Pennsylvania? Go.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik joins me with more. Congresswoman, a lot of people praising your action today as selfless.
I just want you to look at this. Whenever you see a politician come on with a smile that seems to be literally surgically implanted on their face, you know they are enraged and upset because their people have said you cannot let anybody see that you're upset about this. So put on a huge smile, and you can tell, like the strain in her upper lip is so intense. in making sure that those two corners of her mouth do not drop.
It's actually good news. It's actually good news.
It's basically my birthday today.
Oh my God, this is exactly what I wanted. I can't believe it. This is like 45 level chess.
Congresswoman, a lot of people praising your action today as selfless, as really heroic for the agenda of President Trump. I want to pull up this razor-thin House majority. This is what we were looking at here. 218 to 215 is the narrow majority, 218 to 213 rather, which means Republicans can only lose 2 votes on any given piece of legislation. A senior White House official told our Peter Doocy that when you look at this seat that you are in could have been vacant for most of the year. We don't have time to waste. They were referring to Governor Kathy Hochul, who is no friend of the Trump administration and would like to hold your seat open as long as possible. There were a lot of political realities at play, and I'm hoping you can take me behind the scenes into exactly how this transpired and what the thought process was.
Well, thank you, Kayleigh. First of all, I was honored to have earned that nomination by President Trump, and I'm proud to be one of his top allies on Capitol Hill. This goes back to fighting against the witch hunt impeachment. It goes back to being the first member of Congress who endorsed him, as well as leading the charge in so many ways to combat anti-Semitism, which of course he is taking action on today. I know the stakes as an elected representative for New York's 21st District and as a previous member of leadership in the House that we need to secure the border, cut taxes, unleash American energy independence, and deliver these historic results on behalf of the president because of this tremendous mandate that the American people gave him. So I have been proud to be a team player. The president knows that. He and I had multiple conversations today, and we are committed to delivering results on behalf of the American people. And as always, I'm committed to delivering results on behalf of my constituents.
Pause it for 1 second. So you understand what she's saying here. She's implying that, like, I had to keep saying to the president, please let me go back to Congress and not have this position because I need to protect our majority. She is so angry about this. She was angry that they were delaying her.
That's what the Times reported, was that she was like, what's taking so long? Oh, yeah, I guess she must be thrilled to be going back to the House.
And here's the other thing. Her position of leadership in the House, they gave that to somebody else. She's not on any committees. So they'll probably bump somebody, but she's going down. She's actually taking a step down. She is so mad. It is delightful. And also, it's clear she doesn't want to be there. So she's up for a challenge in 26.
Oh, yeah. I hope that puts a target on her back. I also liked how Kayleigh McEnany, who's filling in for Hannity, tries to set her up so nicely about how she was the first to endorse Donald Trump. Yeah, this time around. The first time around, she came into Congress as basically a very Trump-critical Republican. And because she has no principles at all except, going after students for standing up for genocide and college administrators, she flipped on that too.
What was the timeline on this? Did this all transpire today? Was it a long and thought-out conversation? There's a lot of factors. There's, of course, the key election in Florida on Tuesday. There's Kathy Hochul's part in this. There's the notion that your seat does not have an open primary. So there's a lot of factors. What was the timeline of this? Was this a quick decision or one that was long and thought out?
Well, as you know, Kayleigh, I had my hearing the day after the inauguration. The hearing went incredibly smoothly. It passed by voice, and there's been universal praise for the nomination. The reality is, as Democrats, as we see in New York State, it is totally corrupt. Kathy Hochul started threatening to move the ball on the election date. You see a highly, highly politicized radical left trying to do everything they can to defeat the president. And this is about stepping up as a team, and I am doing that as a leader to ensure that we can take hold of this mandate and deliver these historic results, that we can pass this reconciliation bill, which will have tax cuts. It will have border security, American energy independence. And importantly, I look forward to continuing to hold higher education accountable for their failures, as well as all of my work on the House Armed Services Committee and in the national security space that I have been known for at the highest levels in Congress. So it really came to a culmination today, but it was a combination of the New York corruption that we're seeing under Kathy Hochul, special elections, and the House margin. And look, I've been in a House. It's tough to count these votes every day, and we are going to continue to defy the political prognosticators and deliver victory on behalf of President Trump. And
all right, whatever. Dark Kathy.
It's going to be interesting to see what position she gets in the House leadership. They're going to have to create a new position for her, but that means that she's going to have to share.
Anti-Semitism.
There's enough cravenism to go around, but this is absolutely delightful. So glad to see her personal dreams stifled, although this was a potential Democratic pickup, no doubt. I mean, this is, the Republicans are paying attention to this, for better or for worse. And so that's where we're at. Go vote. Vote in Florida. Vote in Wisconsin. The election is on Tuesday. Not sure what the early voting rules are in Florida, but certainly I know you can go vote in Wisconsin right now. In a moment, we're going to be talking to Digby about this week's news, I guess. Before we do, a couple words from our sponsors. This is a sponsor that I was using for years and then became a sponsor. I'd say that's happened with about a half a dozen or so of our sponsors, and I love that. Fast Growing Trees. It's springtime, folks. Now, I know there's a little bit of controversy. When's the best time to plant? Early spring or early, sort of mid fall? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can depend on whatever you're planting, but early spring is without a doubt a great time to plant, regardless. And the best place to go if you're looking for fruit trees or palm trees or evergreens or even house plants, Fast Growing Trees. It doesn't matter what you're interested in. They have it. They have it all. In much better shape than those big box stores, in a much incredibly amazing variety of plants and trees, and you don't have to have dirt fall in the back of your vehicle. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to order online. Your plants are shipped directly to your door in 1 or 2 days. Also, they have a 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee. They also offer free plant consultation forever. So if I've got some, what do you call it? What is that? Powdery mildew on my plants, or I've got some cedar rust, or I got whatever it is. What's going on with these mites? Why is it yellow? Why are there holes in it? Whatever it is, you can get help from them. And again, 30 days Alive and Thrive. You don't have to have a lot of yard space. You can have stuff inside. You can grow figs inside your house. You can grow avocados or olives or lemons. Figs are super easy, and then you can propagate them. That's a dirty little secret about that. The experts at Fast Growing Trees curate thousands of plants so you can find the perfect fit for your specific climate, location, and needs. 24/7, you can get growing and care advice. You can talk to a plant expert about your soil type, your landscape design, how to take care of your plants, everything else you need. No green thumb required. This spring, they have the best deals online, up to half on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get an additional 15% off their first purchase when they use the code MAJORITY at checkout. It's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code MAJORITY at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code MAJORITY. Offer valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Also, if you've listened to the show for a while, you know I've been on a get rid of plastic kick in my life, in my home. 5 billion plastic hand soaps and cleaning bottles are thrown away each year. There's tons of microplastics that make it into the ocean, and actually full-on junky plastics. You're carrying home all of these heavy jugs of laundry detergent, dishwashing detergent, whatever it is, cleaning formulas. Most of these cleaning formulas are 90% water. So not only is it a pain to get it home from the supermarket, it's also a pain and expensive to the planet to ship it in places. They're filled with ingredients like chlorine and ammonia. Well, Blue Land is on a mission to eliminate single-use plastic by reinventing cleaning essentials to be better for you and the planet. With the same powerful clean you're used to. It's a super easy, simple idea. They offer refillable cleaning products with a beautiful, cohesive design that looks great on your counter. what you do is you take your bottles. I use the all-purpose cleaner, the window cleaner, and the bathroom cleaner, pink, blue, and yellow, which is incredibly helpful. And you fill it with water, you put one tablet in, a little bit of a shake, you let the thing dissolve, boom, there it is. Refills start at just $2.25. You can set up a subscription or you buy in bulk, you'll save more money. And it also saves a ton of space. Blue Land products are independently tested to perform alongside major brands, free from dyes, bleaches, harsh chemicals. They got cleaning stuff. They got hand soap. I got the toilet bowl cleaner, sort of like balms, I guess. Laundry tablets. All Blue Land products are made with clean ingredients you can feel good about. You put their tablet in your dishwasher, and you know how those other ones have plastic around it? Well, that plastic doesn't vanish.
Nope.
It just breaks down enough so that maybe some of it's on your plates or maybe some of it goes into the ocean, whatever it is. No need to deal with any of that anymore. It comes in they sell these like tins, one for underneath your sink, for your dishwashing stuff, one in your bathroom. Blue Land trusted over 1 million homes, including mine. It's great stuff. Blue Land has a special offer for listeners right now. Get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/majority. You don't want to miss this. Blueland.com/majority. 15% off. That's blueland.com/majority. Get 15% off. Check it out. Okay, quick break. Digby. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Those are the dulcet tones of the... I can't remember who did that. But it's the Digby theme song. It is Heather Parton, writer at Salon. You may know her as Digby, the proprietor of the blog Hullabaloo. Digby, always great to see you.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Let's start with Signal Gate. It is...
I saw someone IM'd in and called it Whiskey Leaks, which is pretty funny.
That's pretty good.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
It's interesting because it's the first scandal, I think, of the Trump administration. And by scandal, I mean one that puts them on their heels a little bit. And well, I don't know. Give me your sense of it. I mean, it shows the incredible incompetence, and A, incompetence, and B, it was in Project 2025 to do everything you can to avoid any type of government transparency and, prevent FOIAs in this instance. The other part about this is that the Signal stuff was set to delete in 4 weeks. So they wanted no record of this whatsoever.
Right. And I think it's pretty clear just from the fact that every single top member of the administration's national security team and more were on that call. I mean, all of them were there. I mean, and none of them raised this as, a concern. Should we be on Signal, or maybe we ought to take this to a skiff? I mean, whatever. None of them said a word about it. So clearly they do this all the time. That was the only explanation that I could come up with that made that make sense to me, because nobody said a word. And everybody knows that classified information or talking about war, any kind of, even the policy discussion was was sensitive information that they should have been, having in private. And the fact that they put it on Signal just says to me that they're doing it. They have been doing that this whole time. And we have no idea how much of whatever these people in this top national security echelon of the administration have been talking about, but just consider the things that are going on in the world, having to do with Ukraine and Russia and the European split on, the split with our allies, Greenland,
tariffs.
Canada, tariffs. It's all part of that. I mean, all of this stuff that's going on, and I just have to assume now, and I think everybody is, that there are people around the world who have heard all this. I mean, these people are so stupid that they, just basically they don't understand how Signal works. And Pam Bondi made it clear she still doesn't understand it.
Let's play. Do we have this clip of Pam Bondi talking?
While Matt pulls that up, just to add to what you're saying, Heather, this is not getting enough attention, but there was Andrew Feinberg in The Independent basically reported, and it's one source, but I just want to read this paragraph. The decision to refuse government IT help during the months before Trump returned to office was made in part to avoid the mandatory record keeping that comes with using official resources, according to some familiar with Trump's thinking at the time. The Independent understands, according to this source, that Trump's decision was driven by his memory of how emails sent and received by his 2016 and 2017 transition team were later released to groups that made FOIA requests for them and to DOJ investigators under the command of then Special Counsel Robert Mueller during the probe into alleged ties between the president's 2016 campaign and the Russian government. So it appears like he said, Trump 2.0 this time, we're not using official channels. Right. I don't want any records of anything we're doing. And that's why this might be the tip of the iceberg of this story, is that they're trying to avoid record keeping, which is the law, across the entire administration.
Well, consider the fact that Trump is incredibly hostile to the Presidential Records Act. But, just looking at what happened with the Mar-a-Lago search and the records and the back and forth, he fired the national archivist because out of vengeance and anger of what he had, quote, been through. So, yeah, I have no doubt that went down. They just said, no paper trail. We're not doing that anymore. And, one of the things we have to remember about this, too, and I think is pretty clear, is that, this sloppiness about classified information and transparency and what have you, this is the kind of thing that Trump has been doing from the very beginning. I mean, you go back, he would refuse. I mean, I read an article as recently as early 2020. When I was researching this, that Trump had still refused to give up his personal phone, and they had begged him to do it. He never did. I mean, he kept it. I'm sure he's doing it right now. I'm sure, and he doesn't use Signal. This is I'm sure he's just using the regular old text messaging on his phone, and they can't get him to stop. Think about what he did down in Mar-a-Lago when he read the Iran war plans to a couple of writers who were there interviewing him. He showed it to them. He told some Australian billionaire down at Mar-a-Lago one night about the American nuclear submarines, and the billionaire went and told dozens of people, including reporters, about it. This guy he just doesn't believe, he told Kislyak and Lavrov in the Oval Office about some Israeli classified information, very closely held stuff. He shared that with them, kind of, hey, listen, guys, on the QT, got some, want to hear something juicy. And this is how he treats this stuff. So why would Pete Hegseth or any of the rest of them have had any, real sense that this was an important thing? Now, anybody normal that he would have hired for these jobs would have independently understood that this is a very bad idea. But these are all, these are all just toadies, and, they're just whatever Donald Trump wants is, that's all I care about. And, furthermore, I think that, one of the things that struck me about this that I haven't heard a lot of discussion, there has been some, is just the policy discussion itself, setting aside the fact that they use Signal, that they sloppily put Jeffrey Goldberg on the call and all the rest of it. The policy discussion that they were having on that call with J.D. Vance questioning, whether or not they should go ahead with this, and the Europeans don't deserve it, and why are we doing this? Shouldn't we put it off for a month? And Hegseth, being the eager beaver, going, yeah, well, I agree. However, we need to, we're the only people on the planet who can do this, who can protect the shipping lanes, or what does he call it? Freedom of navigation, I guess. Whatever. But in listening to that or reading it, and I read it really closely a number of times, it didn't sound to me, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, that they really knew if Trump had signed off on this.
Oh, they did not. In fact, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that they didn't know, and they were kind of thinking, well, maybe, don't tell, it's kind of like, I won't say it. J.D. Vance even said at one point, well, I won't say anything if you guys agree that we should go ahead. I'll keep it to myself if that's the consensus. And and then Stephen Miller came in like the voice of God in this conversation and said, well, what I heard was a green light, and this is what we're doing. And then he said, yes, we'll make the Europeans and the Egyptians pay, blah, blah, blah. And that was the end of the conversation. So Stephen Miller, apparently in these situations, in these meetings, you'll often find somebody who sort of is considered to have the voice of the president. That's one thing. It's another thing when nobody knows exactly what the president actually agreed to, or whether or not he was going to agree to it, and did he sign off or didn't he? And then Stephen Miller is the guy who is basically calling the shots. That kind of freaked me out, I have to say. I'm sitting there going, him? I don't even know why he was on the call. But the fact that
here's the interesting part. I think he was on the call to do exactly what you said. Here, put this up on the clip. At one point, later in the conversation, Michael Walls adds Miller. And that's when Miller comes into the conversation.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Walls was added Miller after all of that conversation was happening, as basically must have gone to Miller and said, Hegseth, Vance seems reluctant to do this, and Hegseth, he's just so drunk that he's probably just going to go with whoever says to do what. And so Miller's got to come in and put down the hammer. I mean, I was really struck by this situation. Like it does really feel like Miller is brought in to sort of be the heavy in this situation. But also, they talk about targeting a civilian building without a bat of an eye.
Yeah.
Nothing.
There is.
Well, don't mean to interrupt, but that Hegseth has put out an order that they are no longer, that the previous edict that they would take civilian casualties into account when they're putting together operations like this. He says no more. We're not doing that anymore. There's no necessity to take civilian casualties into account. And not that, let's face it, across all administrations, this has been a very cavalier thing. But now they're not even paying, they're not even going to look at it. They consider it some kind of DEI or something. So this is very bad. And they just didn't bat an eye at that. Just fine. Yeah. Get the girlfriend.
It also feels like we don't really know the reason why this happened in reading this, because there does not seem to be, even Vance is like, we could wait a month on this. It doesn't seem like they're going back and forth. It seems like the urgency to do this is coming from outside of the knowledge of almost anybody on the call. And, I suspect it has to do in Israel. It's now being reported, provided, the intel for this attack. I suspect there is another agenda that is not expressed in the, we're all of a sudden, we're gonna, even Vance is like, wait a second. So you're telling me we're going to do this for the Europeans' ability to ship stuff? I don't quite get it. And Hegseth is just raring to go. Well, but Stephen Miller comes in and basically says, we're doing this.
But what also strikes me in the conversation is how Hegseth plays both sides the entire time and is entirely indecisive. Like, you see how he is just there as, I think he's easily blackmailed for Trump, but and there to just basically be a yes man, a toady, as you said.
I don't think that he's taken seriously even by this very unserious group. I
think by himself. He's clearly on there to go like, hey guys, I'm supposed to do this, right? Like,
what are we doing? Yeah.
There's a lot of lack of confidence in what he's doing in this instance.
Absolutely. Agreed. And then doing the whole, putting pathetic and, that the Europeans are pathetic and in capital letters. And, the whole thing obviously was just amateur hour from top to bottom. Hegseth being particularly amateurish in this, Waltz being the second most, well, maybe the first most, considering what he did. But when you look at this, one of the other things that I think is also interesting to look at is the fact that they didn't know what Trump wanted. They weren't sure what are we doing here. Just as you said, Sam, that maybe there were other outside influences and nobody was really aware of what was going on there or why this thing was happening. Also, that they didn't know what Trump wanted or whether or not he'd actually signed off, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that really interested me was when the story broke, it had been out for 2 or 3 hours at the time they asked Trump about it. Goldberg had also asked the White House for comment. He didn't publish that without calling and asking them to comment on it. So the White House was aware. They didn't tell Trump. Now, I don't know whether or not they thought, and I believe him. I know I can tell when he's lying about stuff like that. He has a tell. He's kind of like, oh no, I didn't know anything about that.
I didn't know anything.
Really? And he goes, this time he really didn't know anything. I don't think he knew that this had happened. He seemed like, what are we talking about here? What? It struck me as being pretty real. They didn't tell him about it. Now, I don't know if that's because they didn't think it was any big deal and it wasn't going to blow up, or whether or not they just didn't tell him. And as the day wore on, and then the next day when he had the meeting with all the ambassadors and had Waltz do his little, genuflect and belly crawl to, take responsibility. He's out of it. He seemed really out of it, more out of it than I've seen him before. And for one thing, we know he doesn't understand the technology. That's clear. He's going, well, he had a bad signal. We had a signal that didn't work and wrong guy was on the call and et cetera. He obviously doesn't understand that part. But I don't think, and I see this more and more often in various settings, he is not all there. And he's still Trump and he's still saying his stupid stuff and he's still doing the usual thing. But there's something really going on there, I think, that is more obvious by the day.
I think he's just trying to enjoy his golden years.
Yeah.
Well, true. He's retired. Right?
Honestly, I do think he's like, all I got to do is show up for an hour a day, answer questions. Yep. It doesn't matter how I answer them because they're all, what's
the difference?
No, and nobody presses me. My best attribute is basically going, I'm not talking to you anymore. Your question. And then he goes and plays golf.
He's checked out. And he's also we've now said, I made this exact point yesterday, that we've elected the oldest person ever, now 3 consecutive times to the presidency. Trump the first time broke the record, then Biden, and then Trump broke Biden's record.
And then just getting older, yeah.
And he's just getting older. And that weird interview he did with Laura Ingraham in the Oval Office, where they toured around and he talked about the decor and the curtain that he put up in front of the Declaration of Independence. He is losing it, I think. Yep. And to bring it back to the Signal chat, Stephen Miller, I think, is running this show. And that's what I think is really scary. Like that.
I think so too.
Can we just put up that graphic of what the White House tweeted out yesterday? This disgusting image that will be in history books, this AI image of, I sent it in this chat, of an ICE officer arresting a woman who's depicted as being undocumented from the official White House account.
Oh my God.
So that's Stephen Miller, right? Like the El Salvador prisons and the photo op with the shaved heads. He's basically the de facto president in this area. I mean, we have Elon Musk maybe kind of waning a little bit because of the legal battles, but Stephen Miller, this is his.
Even war plans in Yemen, Stephen Miller's in charge. I agree with you on this because I think that he's the voice on Trump's shoulder, and I think he's the one who. And by the way, the deportations thing with going to the El Salvador prison. That was his baby. That was reported. People have sort of said, well, it was Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio did set it up. He went and met with the president of El Salvador and set up the exchange agreement. But it was Miller, along with Kristi Noem, who is turning out to be quite the good little fascist. Mm-hmm. The two of them were in the White House when that whole thing was coming down with the deportations. They wanted to keep it secret, so that they couldn't get that the stay from so that a court wouldn't know about it. But it leaked. It leaked that Trump had signed that executive order late on Friday night to, call them, Tren de Aragua gang a terrorist they had already called it a terrorist organization, but to invoke the Alien Enemies Act. And he had done that late Friday night, and they wanted to keep it under wraps so that they could get the planes off before anybody knew about it. It leaked, and it got into court, and that's what ended up happening with them, sort of ignoring the judge's order, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody knows about what's going on there. That was Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem in the White House doing that. That was not Marco Rubio. I'm sure Trump was, I think, at Mar-a-Lago. I don't think he knew anything about it. And this was those two doing that. So I agree with you completely, Emma. I think Stephen Miller is running things on a day-to-day basis. You've got Susie Wiles, who's, I don't know, she's kind of handling the paperwork or something. And, sort of there's a pretense that she's the chief of staff. Stephen Miller is the chief of staff, and he is, he's the Edith Wilson of this administration. Because to me, what I see in Trump, and you're absolutely right, that bizarre interview with Laura Ingraham. I mean, it just kind of made my skin crawl, I have to say. First of all, what he's done to the White House is just grotesque. I mean,
it's no longer drab.
Oh my God, the gilded
you don't like
everything.
His taste? Heather, you don't like his taste?
It just doesn't really work for me. I'm sorry. And then putting the curtains on this fake deck. He says, this is the Declaration of Independence. Like it's the real thing. No. Declaration of Independence is, under, it's sort of vacuum sealed, highly secured. The real one, he put a fake Declaration of Independence in the White House and put curtains over it to pretend like it's being protected or something.
Like
I don't even understand it. Yeah, it's like the Torah. I mean, it really freaked me out. I have to say, it was very, very disturbing.
It was bizarre. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. I mean, I think the best way to sort of transition to also what's going on in terms of like broadly with immigrants and sort of this, where we are on the road to fascism, and the thing that's interesting about this scandal, right? I mean, and people. I've definitely had conversations with the people who are like, we're not talking about the 53 people who were killed by our bombing. We also haven't been talking about the fact that we've been bombing, I think, every day since that first attack, which was almost 2 weeks ago now, or was 2 weeks ago.
Oh, it's very successful, Sam. Very, very, very successful.
Well, I mean, we're in this era where like there's so much news, there's so much to that people are worried that like you're keeping your eye on the wrong things. I wonder about, there's two things that sort of dovetail here. One is, where is the opportunities to stop what's happening? Mm-hmm. Like when we still have atrocities going on in Gaza on a daily basis. We have these attacks on Yemen. there's crazy ass stuff going on in Turkey where they like literally like kidnap the mayor, like disappear a mayor with a political rival.
Right.
And they're, starting to like, and that may be where we head in the future. Mm-hmm. But this scandal shows why the president wants cronies all around him, because in the first Trump era, this would break open because somebody would be like, and Marco Rubio almost is playing this role, but he's still being a good little boy. Somebody would go like, hey, I'm not part of this. This is ridiculous. And I said, I'm out. And, whoever it is.
Rex Tillerson, Reince Priebus. Didn't Priebus
Mattis,
resign in the first 100 days?
And not only did some of these people resign, before they resign, they're feeding stuff to the press.
Yeah.
And there's leaks all over that administration. Not this time around.
No.
Nobody, you're not getting any inside information about this stuff at all. As far as I can tell from the reporting, that's absent. And
except that one meeting where Rubio and Musk blew up at each other, and who was clearly leaking that is Rubio.
Yes.
Right.
But aside from that, like, we're not getting the kind of like leaks that we got, and that's all by design.
Close, yeah.
That is all by design. That is what Donald Trump wanted. And I think that's also why he's checked out on some level, because he's like, he did his pre-production jobs essentially, and now he can just sort of coast through this, which again, they've gotten rid of all the apparatus to whistleblow, and they're going after lawyers who protect whistleblowers. They're going after lawyers who represent immigrants by saying, if you've filed a frivolous legal action against the U.S. government, and the metric they're using is, did you lose? And it goes back 8 years. And so they're going to start to sanction immigration attorneys. They're, you wrote in one of your pieces this week in Salon that the thing that's sort of surprising you is how quickly some of these institutions are folding, like universities, like media outlets, like law firms. Talk about that, because I think like I don't know if we are a fascist nation, but we are getting this conversation. It's irresponsible not to have this conversation anymore.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're perilously close. That the institutions actually have, I have to admit, I mean, I'm surprised. I thought that, but I'm not sure why, because we watched the entire Republican Party turn into nothing more than the political arm of Donald Trump's MAGA movement, and they have no institutional integrity whatsoever. The Senate, the majority in the Senate and the House, they have no sense of their own prerogatives under the Constitution. They could care less, whatever, or they couldn't care less, whatever Donald Trump wants. But I didn't really think, I mean, universities, law firms, corporations that have shareholders, media companies, these are all very, very powerful institutions in our society, equal to the government in many, many ways. I mean, they have a tremendous amount of money, they have influence. All of them in their own way have the means to resist being, treated like Donald Trump's lackeys. And yet many of them, I mean, there are exceptions, of course, and I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. There was, I can't remember who, Wilmer Hale, I think today just said they're not going to buckle to Trump's threats. The law firm Wilmer Hale, and there are others, but for the most part, these big law firms, Columbia University, which is known since I was a kid, Columbia was the hotbed of student protest and dissent. It was known for it. And here we have them completely caving to Donald Trump over now. Obviously there are aspects of that, and we know what that stems from, tremendous pressure from donors and over the Israel-Palestine protests last spring and all of that. So we know where a lot of that's coming from. But the law firms are doing it too. And that has nothing to do with Israel and Palestine. That is just purely about, Donald Trump's personal revenge over his troubles and the fact that they want to cow them in order to stop them from defending people against the government. And you have corporations racing, absolutely racing to be the first in line to get rid of their DEI programs. And, just to take a minute about DEI, I really think it's important because we've lost, I think, the thread on this. DEI stems directly from the 1965 Civil Rights Act. And the idea that we were not going to discriminate against, various protected classes of people. Over the years, DEI has developed as we realized that it wasn't enough to just decree that you couldn't discriminate. It became a realization that our society was going to be equitable, that we needed to take extra steps to try and ensure that discrimination, a lot of it, which is subconscious and systemic, would be changed. This was not controversial for, really my lifetime, all of our lifetimes. It really wasn't controversial. This was a normal part of the business world and universities and various other institutions. And this came out of a guy named Chris Rufo, this complete, horror show of he is the Goebbels of the MAGA movement.
He pushed the CRT too.
Pushed the CRT too, and DEI, and he's been very open about why he's doing this, because he knows that this is an organization, this is an organizing principle for the right. And they've pushed this now to the point where all kinds of, any kind of outreach, any kind of, awareness of trying to be inclusive of people, of difference other than, I guess, white Southerners. I don't know who the baseline is on this anymore. And the speed with which this is taking place in corporate America has actually stunned me as much as anything. They are racing to say, we are getting rid of our DEI programs. And that, what does that mean exactly? It's not just, having some meeting where everybody's brought in and said, everybody needs to be aware of, being nice to other people in the workplace or whatever. It's these things that people seem to be so annoyed by. This is the very basis of the 1965 Civil Rights Act, and that is what they're basically attacking. So that's a digression. I just wanted to say that's another aspect of this cave that's really disturbing to me, because what we're seeing is all these Wall Street, these guys who are saying, yeah, I can say the word pussy now in the workplace, yeah, that kind of stuff. And these big institutions, I really thought, CBS News or ABC, settling with Trump over complete nonsensical lawsuits, that they would have some, sense of their own prerogatives, their own power within the society to say, no, the government doesn't get to tell us what to do. Right now, this used to be, if nothing else, it was a right-wing idea, get the government out of our lives. You couldn't tell businesses how they could run their business. You couldn't tell law firms what they could do. And so this has become a big surprise to me, and it is one of the most chilling aspects of this, because if all these people with power are refusing to fight back, you've got the Republicans in Congress refusing to fight back. You've got the Democrats who are, sort of suspended in amber and basically, doing the bare minimum to even say anything.
Heather, we will win.
We will win because the Republicans are going to come around.
We won't rest.
They're going to come around. I swear to God, when they realize they're going to come around.
The fever will break.
This is what's interesting, because this dynamic that you talk about, right-wingers have always said, this is why you don't want a powerful government. Right? Because they will exercise this. And, Michigan ends their DEI things, but you also have the government intimidating law firms. These are big law firms. And all of these, Jeff Bezos.
Right.
The interesting thing here, and I think maybe we got to wait for people to write books about this, and it's a little bit early for people to make these type of analyses, but when it's a right-wing government, all of these entities you're talking about are operating under one principle, and that is what is not going to cost us money, right? What is not going to cost us money? It is like we are watching the sort of the failure of capitalism in the face of right-wing authoritarianism. That is the problem. because all of these players we're talking about would not have the same response to a socialistic government or administration, I should say, that was trying to pull these same things, because they are in that position protecting their money. And the agenda for them to protect their money is to not listen, is to fight against, right? Then you see lawsuits. You can't force us to provide contraception in our insurance for people, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, this is where I think like the failure. I mean, this is an indictment of capitalism
and liberal institutions, right? Right.
And it is interesting, the dynamic that the right wingers always talk about. You don't want a government too powerful because then it becomes oppressive and authoritarian. Well, only if it is a right wing government, because there is an incentive structure within the private sector to fight against an authoritarian leftist government. But they don't have that same incentive structure to fight against a right-wing authoritarian government, because the right wing is not coming for their money. The right wing is coming for, maybe they're coming for a VIG, but they're not coming for their money or their capacity to extract resources. On the contrary, they're making it easier for these entities to extract resources from a society. They're just coming from their freedom of action or their freedom of expression or their freedom of association. And people don't value that. These institutions do not value that as much. Even the law firms, which all of those people have ostensibly told themselves at one time or another in these law firms, I am an integral part of society. I'm not like just a player. I'm woven into the fabric of society. Even those law firms are not protecting their civil rights as much as they are protecting their earning capacity.
Well, and just to put a finer point on that, I just read a whole thing about the Paul Weiss, the spectacular cave on the law firm front. They had always been known, and one of the reasons they were targeted, as a big Democratic law firm, right? They were the ones that all the Democrats would use, and were involved in all these big cases. But that's changed in the last 4 years. It said in the article, I think it was in the New York Times. They've been taking on major corporate clients, and that has become their big revenue. And they have some big, I can't remember the guy's name, some big wheeler dealer lawyer who's at the top of their corporate division, who they poached from some other law firm and brought him over. And he brought over all these big clients like GE, really big clients. That's exactly what you said, Sam. That's what's driving them. Their business, as they know it now, is just being in service of the corporate of corporations. One thing that I find interesting about this, though, is that one thing we know about Donald Trump, and apparently all the people around him, is that he is economically illiterate and is making economic decisions that make no sense, even for big business. Now, granted, they'll get their tax cuts. I think we can probably count on that. And maybe that's all they care about. Tax cuts. There's nothing else here. But what Trump is doing to the economy with his tariffs and with breaking up all these alliances in various ways all over the world, the global economy is it's very unstable because of what he's doing. It's not just unstable because it's unstable. I mean, that can happen, and somebody can be at fault for that or not. This is directly a result of his actions and his decisions, because he doesn't understand how economics works. I mean, he just doesn't. He's really ignorant when it comes to that, and there's no changing his mind. So he doesn't understand it. So that this golden goose that's there, I mean, this incredible bull market that has been going on for the last few years, that is in extreme danger right now because of what he's done. And you're looking at consumer confidence report came out today that is just absolutely in the dirt. I mean, people all over in this country are not confident about what's going on, and that's going to have a big effect. Tariffs on autos, all this stuff. So, that's the part I don't get. And what I have come to the conclusion, and this is probably pretty, I don't know, a lot of people think I'm just full of it, but I think that these people around him, people like Scott Bessent and Howard Lutnick, and, I mean, forget Peter Navarro. I mean, he's just a nut. But, people who you would otherwise, Howard Lutnick, who seems like a crazy man to me, ran Cantor Fitzgerald for 20 some odd years. I mean, he's not like somebody who was just, came out of nowhere. So he was obviously a serious player, billionaire. In fact, the whole administration is full of billionaires.
Yep.
And I think, they know that what Trump is doing with tariffs is ridiculous. They know that this makes no sense. They think, but they have concluded, and I can kind of understand why they have. Trump has gotten away with absolutely everything in his life and now in his political life particularly. He was impeached twice, January 6th, lost an election, came back, avoided every legal accountability for anything that he did. That hat that he wears that says President Trump was right about everything. I think a lot of these guys have just concluded that that's true. There's something about him, and they're just, they're hitching their wagon to him because they think that even though they know for a fact that half the stuff he says is complete and utter bullshit, that somehow or another he transcends that and will bring them the success that they think. And they like all the other stuff about him, by the way. They love the immigration and all that.
Can I present an alternate theory, Heather? I think some in the administration have drank the Kool-Aid, but like Lutnick in particular wants to cash in, right? Like, so he put his two sons who are in their 20s to head Cantor Fitzgerald in his absence. And Cantor Fitzgerald has heavy investments in cryptocurrency and commercial space. And
there is that, yeah.
And like my guess is that those folks in particular, Bessent too, they don't care if the economy crashes because their areas of like where most of their investment is outside of the traditional economy.
That's
Cryptocurrency
true.
is just speculation. So like they can just basically put the country into shock therapy, like Naomi Klein so presciently wrote about almost, 15, 20 years ago. And they can buy everything up on the cheap because they're making all their money in a separate pool of just basically speculation that's completely underregulated. Lutnick is maybe like he's up there with one of the worst people in this administration because he's just there for that purpose.
I think this is obviously too, this is all speculative, but I think that's exactly right. You're looking at people who have a ton of money. And the one thing that I think they would all say to a man, and the vast majority of them are men, is you make your money in the dips. And these are all finance people. It's not like, these are not big manufacturer, industrialists. I mean, I think that's a big, I think that is like an important thing to keep in mind. These are not industrialists who are coming in. These are not coming in from like, this is not Rex Tillerson, CEO of ExxonMobil type of like, these are people who have made all of their money in finance. And every time, I would imagine almost 90% of the times that they're making their money, it's because they bought on the dip. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities for them personally and the circles in which they run in. Like, I think there's like, these are people at this level of wealth, you are inoculated by recessions, from recessions, I should say. In fact, all you see when you see a recession is an opportunity to go in and buy up more. Whether it's like the fires in LA, that's an opportunity because I've got the cash and I'm going to go in, I'm going to buy up all this land. It is all of that.
Happened during COVID too, happened during the Great Recession, and you're especially inoculated if you're in the administration. So like the rest of your buddies may, like that's why you hear these quotes to Jeffries that the Silicon Valley guys are pissed because they're not in on it, right? Like they won't be able to get ahead of whatever crash happens. And that's why they're so happy to go along because there's no oversight on the corruption and they will get richer, all of them, in their time in the administration, even if the economy crashes, is my guess.
And if the crypto market, finally crashes, which it will, they'll get bailed out by the government. They're setting that up.
They're setting that up right now.
Well, he wants to create a strategic reserve of crypto, which would take taxpayer money to artificially inflate and create a floor for cryptocurrency, which was supposed to be an alternative to fiat currency. But now we need the government with fiat currency to stabilize it.
That's right.
It is. I mean, to say we're in late-stage capitalism is almost an understatement here in terms of the level of robber baron. Like, the robber barons here are just out of control. But they're not like the robber barons of, the Gilded Age, where they at least built our damn railroads.
These guys a legacy worth having. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are just speculators.
Yep. And I also think too, having lived some years in small towns, small cities, politics to a lot of people is really just a mechanism to extend their business interests. And like you get on the county board of supervisors because you're going to provide like the contracts to your favorite food distributor, and they're going to throw you some work on. It's just a mechanism in which to extend your business. And I think, Donald Trump, more than any other president I think we've ever had, that's the way that he perceived this. And I think he just perfected it in his second Trump administration. Heather, we'll put a link to those two pieces in salon.com. I mean, I think, the next time we talk, it's probably going to just be marginally worse than it is today.
Oh, no doubt. That goes without saying. It's not, that's no doubt.
But
just wait for the new jobs reports, new economic reports, all this stuff. The things are going to start to shake up a little bit, I think, among the public, and that's going to be interesting.
When we signed off on Wednesday after with the results of that Pennsylvania thing, like these, and you and I have seen this for decades now. Those special elections, why they can't necessarily predict what's going to happen in the midterms or the upcoming elections, they have a power in and of themselves to change the behavior of, we just saw it with Stefanik. She's not going to the UN now because they're afraid of losing that seat. The next step is, if Wisconsin ends up going to the liberal as opposed to the conservative justice, they don't have parties there. If by any chance the Democrat wins one of those seats in Florida or makes it a close race, we're getting closer to that moment where we may see some of the frontline Republicans make the determination that despite the fact Elon Musk has all the money in the world to throw at them in a primary, maybe it's like they're like, right now, they're not between a rock and a hard place. They're between a rock and a slightly softer place. But if Democrats are winning these special elections and picking up 15 points, just generically speaking, that's going to make it really a rock and a hard place, and it's gonna impact the calculations. Well,
it's going to be interesting as we watch this, because the budget negotiations are starting now, and this is going to go on for months. But that is going to have an impact. The Stefanik thing is a definite canary in the coal mine. They're seeing something in those internals that made them do that, because poor Elise, she is just devastated. I mean, she's so upset. She was going to get a beautiful penthouse in Manhattan.
I'm not upset.
I'm not upset. It's perfectly fine.
Why are you saying that? Why are you accusing me of being upset?
Poor
I'm very,
Elise.
very happy.
Poor
We've got
Elise.
a lot of work to do on the phones.
I mean, think what she gave up. I mean, this is one of the most glamorous jobs you can have. It's in Manhattan, the big penthouse. She bought a whole new wardrobe. She had a total makeover. I mean, she was ready for the big Manhattan social scene, and now she's stuck back in her, shitty condo in D.C. and God knows, So they had to do that, and they did that to her, which I couldn't be happier about. But they're nervous about it, and we are going to see now, over the course of the next few months, how well, I don't think, obviously the institutions are completely unreliable. Let's get that out of our heads. If we thought there was going to be any help, it's going to come from the grassroots. And if the crowds that are showing up for Bernie and AOC are any indication, if these town halls are any indication, the Tesla demonstrations are any indication, at the very least, the engaged and active people on the left and the center left, they're actually getting off the couch. So maybe that'll make a difference. I mean, what else can we do? What else can we do? Yeah, I mean, this is it.
I just love the idea of Stefanik.
Me too. That made me laugh out loud when I heard it yesterday. I'm not kidding.
I can't wait to spend another winter in Skohari.
I know. Couldn't happen to a nicer gal.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So sad. So sad.
All right. Heather Parton Digby, always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Glad to see you guys.
Yep. You too.
All right, folks. Going to take a quick break, head into the fun half of the program. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you not only get the fun half, but you get the free half free of commercials. Also, don't forget Just Coffee, justcoffee.coop. They're in Wisconsin. You know, I will tell you, I say this with 100% assuredness that 90% of the people working there, I'm covering myself because I don't want to say 100%, 90% of the people working at that co-op in Madison, Wisconsin, making coffee for you, they are out there whipping votes right now for this election in Wisconsin. If you are in Wisconsin, go vote. If you're in Florida, go vote.
Yep.
Those two House races, Florida 1st and 6th. It is like just a weird dynamic that actually like had the knock-on impacts of these special elections carry so much weight. Not just in the fact that it would narrow the congressional majority that they have, but also in terms of how it changes the behavior of some of these lawmakers. And even also in the Democratic side, like,
Oh, it might embolden them in the same way, like when we talked about how protests can make it so, like, on behalf of the federal workers, so that it increases morale within the federal workforce so they don't resign or quit, hold the line, don't resign. That like when you stack these kinds of wins, it gives everybody more confidence. But what Elon Musk is doing, what's he up to right now? Oh, wow.
What's this?
So I guess he's headed to Wisconsin, right? But he deleted this tweet saying,
so he tweeted out in the middle of the night, on Saturday night, I will give a talk in Wisconsin. Entrance is limited to those who have voted in the Supreme Court election. I will also personally, I'm not doing enough stuttering, but I'll also personally hand over 2 checks for $1 million each in appreciation for you taking the time to vote. This is super important. Teddy Schiefler says, Musk has deleted this tweet from 1 a.m. about his upcoming talk in Wisconsin. The rules surrounding these checks have drawn some legal scrutiny.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't
imagine why.
Lock him up.
Doesn't Elon Musk have an active case in front of the Wisconsin Supreme Court right now? I'm almost positive. Yeah, Tesla's been suing Wisconsin after the state blocked him from opening a dealership there. So, and then he's giving...
Wow, the state doing terrorism against a Tesla dealership.
Yeah.
Matt, Left Reckoning.
Yeah, Left Reckoning. We had Jeet here on the program. Check out the Sunday show, patreon.com/Left Reckoning. We're talking about a little bit of a Texas history, so check that out.
Folks, see you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Oh, no. Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back. back.
Just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder, what a fucking nightmare.
Bring back DJ.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males
psych. Fuck them. Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100.
Can't knock the hustle.
Come on, fuck them. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy. I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back.
Come on. Come on. Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland, Matt Leck. Wait, were we going to do this on Monday? We going to do this on Monday, or are we going to do this today? Or are we going to do it on Monday?
I mean, I think apparently on Thursday, Binder last Thursday when I was out, he accidentally revealed the name of our new producer.
Nobody caught on. People have to
on?
go back into the deep dig into the archives.
All right.
There you go.
Breadcrumbs.
Where should we start here?
Oh yeah.
Which one is this?
5 is maybe it's good.
Oh yeah. Okay. We were mentioning with Digby in the first half of the program that this signal gate is important because it's the first opportunity for a crack within the Trump administration. And it really does not appear that there is one, but it is putting them on their back heels. Had this happened in the first Trump administration, there would be leaks. People on the call, people who thought the call was a bad idea, people who are fighting against these people in the administration, but they're all in the same sort of crony wavelength, if you will, within the Trump administration now. But you can see that people even outside of the, within and without of the administration are getting a little bit uptight about this.
I mean, Steven Crowder was criticizing it. Like you had
the media's all mad that they can't talk about the good things about mass deportations and stuff because they're getting embarrassed on the national security front.
Laura Ingraham seemed a little queasy too. Like, this is inexcusable.
It shows a tremendous amount of incompetence.
Yes.
So that even the criminals can criticize it. Like, you guys, this is amateur hour, you know, for them. And so there's a lot of criticism coming a lot of ways. And this is good because anything that creates a little bit more friction for the Trump administration is helpful on everything else. This is Caitlin Collins interviewing VA Secretary Doug Collins. No relation.
Do you believe that a mistake was made here, though, to have this conversation, to add a reporter, and to have it on an unsupported, classified group setting?
Caitlin, as I've just told you, I've just answered the question. I wasn't part of it. And, I'm not going to speculate more than what the president's already talked about and those who've been involved have talked about. But we'd love to talk about the veterans.
Yeah, and I do have questions about the veterans, but given what we saw with the group chat and how this was used, you are a member of the cabinet. You obviously know these other members, several of them who were in there. Is this typical for the cabinet to have conversations over Signal? Is this something that you use?
Well, Caitlin, since you undoubtedly do not want to talk about the VA, I have a question as VA Secretary. As Cabinet, I want to ask you, because I've been curious about this, because my job is to take care of veterans, and I would like to know why CNN is hostile to veterans, especially one in Florida.
Can you pause it? All right. $5 million I'm sorry. That is insanely telling. Yeah. That, first of all, Caitlin Collins, great question, because he doesn't want to answer it.
Because of course they are.
We are getting increasing reporting that they've been using Signal basically since Trump won because they want to avoid what, according to The Independent, is basically Trump basically saying that in 2016, his transition team, they used official government channels like they're supposed to do, and then those communications were used against him in the Mueller probe. So it seems like they're doing this across various agencies. I mean, the war plan stuff is so egregious, but that's why he goes on the offensive about CNN and how they don't care about the veterans. When, by the way, there's a story on NBC News the other day that Doge cut a office manager at a VA center in Wyoming where the veteran suicide rate is 50% higher than the national average, and she was fired last month. So spare me, or not last month, recently, spare me, Doug Collins, on how CNN doesn't care about veterans.
And I would like to know why CNN is hostile to veterans, especially one in Florida where you just had a $5 million defamation suit taking offense at a veteran who was trying to help people. In fact, one of your employees actually said, we're going to nail him. I have a question for you, Caitlin. Is that employee still employed? Are you really concerned about veterans? So if we don't want to talk about veterans now, you want to talk about everything else, I'd like to hear from CNN as the veteran cabinet secretary why CNN seems to have a problem with veterans.
Well, Mr. Secretary, respectfully, my question was about whether or not you as a member of the cabinet use this. And respectfully, I'm conducting the investigation. And I do have a lot of questions for you on Veterans Affairs, but I don't think it would be unwarranted to ask
What you want to do is talk about a subject that I've already answered. And if you want to continue this like this, that's fine. But there are VA employees who are working very hard.
I just want to say he didn't answer the question of, do you have chats like this on Signal often?
Oh, no, that is exactly why he got this indignant. I mean, understand, he goes into this with that in his back pocket if he needs it. He does not, and he could actually wait. I mean, he could have had that in his back pocket and like, if I need it in this one, I use it. If I don't need it in this one, I save it for some other time. Even picking up his accent.
What you want to do is you want to talk about a subject. What you want to do is talk about a subject that I've already answered. And if you want to continue this like this, that's fine. But there are VA employees who are working very hard. There are veterans who get their care from the VA and they get their benefits from the VA. And it does me no good to speculate on something that I've already asked and answered. So I've asked and answered your question. Why don't you answer mine? Is this person still employed who said they were going to nail one of my veterans? Who you had to do a $5 million award from a jury because of defamation, and then you settled the case. Answer my question.
Respectfully, sir, I'm asking the questions here, and I have no involvement in referencing there. But if you don't want to answer the question about whether or not it's commonplace for secretaries in the cabinet to use Signal.
Oh,
he doesn't answer.
He doesn't answer it.
I think that's spoiler alert.
Yeah. Well, that's telling in and of itself.
I mean, it's quite clear. They're doing this, right?
Yes.
The answer is yes. And good for her for staying on that point.
Yep.
They are, listen, they're worried about it and they're trying to spin it around and they want to avoid talking about this. Here is Pam Bondi, and she is on, where is she on? Oh, wait, was that the Signals one?
I guess this was when she was speaking to reporters. I don't know.
There's two in the chat. I can't figure out which is which.
Right. So she's speaking here to reporters. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the event was, but this is, I guess, what Sam's referring to here. One sec.
The Signals chat controversy that's going on. Is DOJ involved at this point? If so, why? If not, why not?
Well, first, it was sensitive information, not classified, and inadvertently released. And what we should be talking about is it was a very successful mission. Our world is now safer because of that mission. We're not going to comment any further on that. If you want to talk about classified information, talk about what was at Hillary Clinton's home that she was trying to bleach bit. Talk about the classified documents in Joe Biden's
Pause it.
garage.
Just I want to really be honest with you here. The bleach bidding thing that they're talking about with Hillary Clinton was over 10 years ago now.
Hillary Clinton hasn't been in elected office since February 2013.
Joe Biden informed the government that there were documents in his garage and immediately handed them over without having to be asked, whereas Donald Trump hid these documents on multiple occasions and refused to hand them over.
Even Mike Pence returned them voluntarily. So it's not just a bipartisan thing, it's a Trump thing.
But this is incidentally the chief law enforcement officer of the United States who's supposed to be completely above political influence. Go ahead.
Talk about the classified documents in Joe Biden's garage that Hunter Biden had access to. This was not classified information, and we are very pleased with the results of that operation and that the entire world is safer because of it. Thank you all very much.
The entire world is safer? Really?
They killed civilians. They killed multiple children in that strike.
And there's been strike after strike after strike over the past 8 or 9 days. The entire world was worried about the ability of the Houthis to threaten the entire world. Fascinating.
I mean, frankly, what the Houthis were doing is, I guess, doing something to keep. I'm not saying that they're making the world safer, but it's certainly more than what the Trump administration is doing with those strikes, because the blockade is there to put pressure on Israel to stop committing genocide.
We're bombing them to minimize the effects of Israel's genocide on the European, particularly Europe.
And you know how we know that their stated reason is kind of matching up with their actions is because when there was a ceasefire, the blockade stopped.
Here's Bondi on Laura Ingraham. Laura Ingraham was talking about this apparently. This is one from last night. It's not a number. It's in the chat. You got to scroll up, way up, 1221.
And that is that changing in the government now, though? Is Signal not going to be used, or is it going to be used going forward? Are you aware of it?
I think Signal's a very safe way to communicate. I don't think foreign adversaries are able to hack Signal, as far as I know.
And
pause it for a second. This is astonishing because we now have, first off, it is not legal for them to be using Signal and have it on auto delete. There is absolutely no controversy about that. The law is they need to maintain these records. That's just the law, period. You can maybe finagle around whether it's really a breach of the law to use a private device and to use Signal. But the law is they need to retain this information. And we know for a fact from that leaked chat that it was set to auto delete within 4 weeks. So that is, if you were the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, would be a sticking point for you. Also, if you're the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, you would also know that the issue is not that Signal can be hacked. The issue is that because you're not allowed to put them on government issue phones, they are then on private phones.
Yep.
And the issue is that private phones can be hacked, and you can tell what is being typed into Signal
via keystrokes by bugging. And we now know from this week's reporting in Der Spiegel in Germany that both Waltz and Hegseth's personal phone numbers were available for this paper to find, meaning that they could have, that's how that hack could happen, because their phone numbers were available. And passwords too, for that matter.
Communicate. I don't think foreign adversaries are able to hack Signal, as far as I know.
And maybe people just have to keep an eye on their contact list a little bit more carefully going forward.
No, that's not it. That's not it. Stop trying to hide your communications from federal oversight and from historians and from future legal action. That's the problem.
It's crazy that they'd even mention Hillary Clinton in this, because it kind of shows them as giant hypocrites that they were so concerned about a private email server, and now they all have basically private messaging servers in their pockets at all times.
The only thing that I appreciate about them bringing that up over and over again is that hopefully some of like their showing that level of hypocrisy will motivate the press to continue and stay on this, because they must realize it's sort of like, you know, it's like essentially the refs seeing that the game switched because they got a little too overzealous in covering, in calling stuff that was physical on one end of the court. Now they got to makeup calls here. Although I have to say, this seems to be both indicative of a much wider problem and showing far more incompetence. I assume you guys played yesterday the footage from Somerville, Mass, right? Mm-hmm. That came out in time. That footage is incredibly chilling to watch. These cops come up, well, not cops, these ICE guys. And incidentally, you don't have the same responsibilities in terms of like obeying an ICE agent as you would a cop, particularly, obviously, if you're a citizen. If you're not a citizen, there's a lot more vulnerability. But understand that these people are going to be, they're going to do whatever they want to do in that moment. Let's go to this Marco Rubio clip that is in the chat, 1229. We heard a lot about, and we've seen now multiple reports of the people who were shipped down to this El Salvador gulag not being, in one instance, being a legal refugee in this country. We now have seen instances of people having a tattoo that was in support of autism awareness getting shipped down. We have heard reports of women and non-Venezuelans being shipped down there. And, in El Salvador, they only agreed to take Venezuelans into this gulag. So they were shipped back up.
It's human trafficking.
All of these people obviously received no due process. So we don't know if any of them were, gang members, never, aside from the fact that just being in a gang in and of itself is not a crime. There is a wide berth for whom they can deport, but it is supposed to be done with due process. Here is Marco Rubio finally admitting what everybody has known now, and certainly most rational people suspected early on, which is that they don't know who was on those planes. They have a good guess at some of them, but we don't know.
Right. Secretary Rubio, when you and President Bukele, you mentioned Tren several times, when you and President Bukele negotiated the deal to transfer the U.S. deportees to his prison in Secot, did you discuss any provisions to ensure that individuals mistakenly identified as gang members would have access to legal recourse, or that they can secure their release if they are wrongfully?
Yeah, we have that list was carefully vetted, provided to us by Homeland Security. We have confidence in it. What we negotiated is the reality that they in El Salvador comply with all the international requirements for imprisonment. So we sent them people with a combination of people, gang members, people we knew were involved in activities that were not productive to the United States. All of them removable in terms of our laws, all of them. Every single one of them was someone who was removable from the United States, irrespective, and MS-13 members, many of whom are Salvadoran, that we had identified as MS-13 members that they had helped us identify as well. So it was a combination of people that we sent. And, we may send more. We'll see.
A combination.
He's trying to cover.
Medley.
He's trying to cover here. And we don't know. The absence of due process for these people means that we don't know if they were removable. It is the case that the United States government has the right, broadly speaking, to deport a lot of people.